You're live, Madam Chair.
Okay, welcome back, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions. It is Tuesday, February 25th. And we have to submit our recommends to the Appropriations Committee by tomorrow. So we have some things that we have to confirm. We've made decisions on some things. This is what I'm gonna go over. We have this sheet here that came from the chair of Appropriations Committee. And then we've added on some things to this. So the first one is the 300,000 to convert the St. Johnsbury facility to treatment services. We got language that's coming back from Ben for that. We've agreed to it. But there's some things that have to be put in place. And then the legislature wants to see the results of those bids that come back and kind of see what the treatment program would look like before we say, okay, to it actually happening. And we've recommended 200,000 instead of 3. Okay? We haven't really talked about the second one, though it's included in our budget. It's the 14.8 million of the formula for cash in the cash fund. And we haven't talked about that, but I think the committee supports that transfer. But I'm also gonna say to folks, anything that deals with cash is not in stone. It's gonna stay there.
Y'all get that.
We'll be very clear about that. That will be negotiated between the two committees based on what Representative Harrison said to us. So we can give preliminary approval, but we know that that's gonna be under discussion.
Yep. It's contingent
Contingent on what?
on what they decide downstairs
Yeah,
or what their needs are.
yep. And then the other one, I have a real question about. This is $1 million that was from sub-account B.
Yep.
It was not from the first account in the cash fund that directly with the capital. This was money that we put aside. Let's just add this. Scott, you worked on this. We put aside in 23. And that would have been for FY 24. We put aside 7.5 million for state colleges. And this was to go towards Green Hall and Vale, as well as their major maintenance. Appropriations put this 7.5 million in the sub-account B. We did not. They did. Sub-account B is for other infrastructure, essential investments, and reserves. Sub-account A is cash fund for capital and essential investments. So they put it in sub-account 2. It was 7.5 million when we came back here last year. Vale Hall is not going forward as they had anticipated. And to this, even testifying a few weeks ago, it said Vale is still not ready to go. On top of that, last year appropriations was asking us to help them find some general fund dollars. So in testimony that we received from the state colleges, we said last year, we'll give you back $1 million. Because State Colleges is not gonna use $1 million for the Vail project. So we'll give that money back to you. As part of the we gave them $5 million last year. To help them out. So we released that money. We said, it's yours. It's not ours, it's yours. The governor has proposed that that 1 million gets put back into our capital bill this year.
Mhm.
And they're saying it's because it's state colleges and it freed up from state colleges. Well, yes, but we gave it to appropriations last year to use. So we relinquished any authority over it.
Mhm.
So our capital budget from the governor, there's $1 million built in.
So can we get to, so I can understand, so were you advocating that we release that, or just say we're giving that to
It's not
appropriations?
ours to have.
Well, I know that, but are you saying we support that going to appropriations, or are you saying, do you want us to say, can we have it? Which of those are you advocating for? Was what I'm,
I think it would be better to leave it freer.
to them. Okay,
Put it on the table, it's free for discussion.
I just wanted to make sure I
Because
understood where.
no one knows where any of this is headed.
Got it. I'm
Yeah,
fine.
I think I'm still confused on that because I thought released it to just the general fund last year and they used it for other things, right? I don't see why is there a balance at all here?
They said $1 million is,
Can that guy tell me what to say?
what, Scott?
Good afternoon, Chair, for the record, Scott Moore, Joint Fiscal Office. I can't tell you what happened in appropriations in the big bill, but I can tell you essentially, like Madam Chair was saying, the capital bill had $7.5 million, which was appropriated in the sub-account B. We then said, we don't need this million, only use $6.5 million for bail and, not bail, but
For green and major maintenance.
major maintenance. So in theory, that money was assigned to a certain department ID. All these different numbers, you know, they'll have depth IDs. And that money then was not used in the big bill. The big bill only appropriated 6.5 million from the cash instead of 7.5 million from the cash. So there's still that $1 million left over in some account B.
I got you, no, that's very clear.
And it's not 1.2 million?
No,
It'll be just one.
Just 1 million.
I'm fine with that going back.
going back to general fund.
So if you look at, I think it's Act 78, or 130, I can't remember the big bill number off the top of my head, but if you look at it, you can see it says for green, 6.5 million is appropriated. Gotcha. And we said, well, we had 7.5, here's the million.
Yep.
And didn't get.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Kevin?
Hey, Doug, I'm sure this is a crazy idea, but since the rug seems to have been pulled out from under us on the 3 million for Wi-Fi, there's no way we could use the million to do the critical Wi-Fi areas within the corrections buildings. Agree?
If it's done, it would be done through the general fund. And this million could go towards that, but it would be an appropriations committee. You don't want to open up the capital bill to IT projects. We used to.
If we want to retain it, would it be a stronger argument to say it's being retained for VSCs,
For what?
for the state colleges?
We. I mean,
What's your opinion, Alice? What do you
I think we give it back to approach,
All right,
just leave it big.
Yep.
well,
I don't know. I just don't know what's going on with their state college appropriation.
Yep.
all right,
And stuff and we've got some ass on top. We've never done this as a committee. In terms of recommends, we've always just recommended based on what parts of the budget pertain to us as a
Yep.
policy. This time around, we're adding things like the deputy sheriffs. The we're concerned about, I am anyway, the 1 million for recovery centers, that the feds may not come forward with an earmark.
Mhm.
And then the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And then Kids Apart. So we're adding on our recommendations
Yeah.
beyond what's being already proposed by the governor. So I'm a little leery to say, well, we're gonna grab everything and then you guys can try to figure out everything else that we're asking for more
Yeah,
money.
So may I ask real
I'm
quick, just to,
assuming you've seen Catherine James's last letter.
I've heard about it, but we're gonna talk about it.
yeah,
Okay.
so just so we can, at least in my mind, we can move on? Because I think we do. Is there anybody that disagrees with adding that? Washing our hands of the 1 million? Okay, so that's.
I think it buys us goodwill for the other things we're asking. you know, like,
So we can move on then.
And then we'll go back to the folks.
Yes.
Then the other one we talked about today with Eric.
Yep.
14.5 being unreserved.
Yep.
Which frees it up. So we're okay with that?
Yes.
You better be agreeable. You're getting nothing for that money.
Don't even go there.
So I don't know if we did anything
We agreed to that, right?
for 70.
Yes.
On top of
We as
the
a
one,
group,
on the
we all as a
55.
group said yes to it.
Yep.
I have a note
So the what?
To the 70 on top of the 55 for the fire
at
safety.
the bottom
Oh,
for,
yes, yes.
for E 212.
Yeah, I mean, this is a general comment. I am good with the recommendations, but I don't know who the heck else is recommending things. So I might not actually support any of this stuff in reality, once you see what the whole budget looks like.
Yeah,
that's
we're
the
not
only reason
even
I-
there.
But we're just making, this is just a wish list from my
Right.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be nice?
we don't know what's gonna happen.
Fair enough, as long as I just wanted to verbalize.
You flip flop.
Given.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm
So next,
gonna start with the easy part, which is Troy with Kids Apart. And Troy, why don't you talk about whatever the bill is? 219?
Sorry.
What's the bill number?
219,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
and
219.
the money piece.
So right now, the Kids Apart program is run by Lund in the Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility, in the women's facility. Bear with me.
Yeah, we know
That
the
is
feeling.
run, through an agreement with the Department of Corrections and the Lund Family Center. And to make that program work, they don't get all the money they need from the Department of Corrections, and that's not codified, right? That's not a statute that we have to do that particular visitation program. We have heard testimony earlier in the session about how successful that is from the folks who deliver it. We have not yet heard testimony from, I don't think, the Department of Corrections itself, but it's my understanding, I don't want to speak for them, that they value that partnership with Lund to deliver the program in the correctional facility, CRCF. The bill came out of a meeting prior to the session, and as a result of some legislation this committee put into place last year, saying we would like a study to determine if that program should expand into the men's facility for parity. That report came back, and this is a testimony we took from the Lund Center, that this is what it would take. It would take money, if we're going to actually codify this, make it a program, that the Department of Corrections has this sort of commitment to incarcerated parents and their children. We want to make sure that the program as it stands in CRCF is funded wholly. I can't remember what that balance is, and then an additional amount of funds to lift this up as a pilot within the men's facility in Newport. So the total between making the CRCF program whole and upstarting in Newport is about $400,000. That's what's in the bill. That's not money that would come out of the capital bill. That's a new Department of Corrections initiative, so we have to fund it. If we're going to create a program that expands the Kids Apart program into a men's facility, it needs about $400,000 to work.
So conversation I had briefly with Trevor, he came in. We haven't gone over the details, but he right now indicated to me he has found some money, found some possibilities within the DOC budget to fund Kids Apart at the Chittenden facility and also at the Newport facility.
Okay.
And it came up to like 390,000, what he has found.
Yep.
And I said, well, we're looking at this as well. So he's already looking at it and said that he's found some money within DOC's budget. So do we want to make a recommend for that? We fund the Kids Apart visitation program. This is for families in Chittenden. And that we do a Kids Apart visitation for parents, for fathers at the Newport facility.
Sure, I got a dumb question. How does Trevor find money that we couldn't find since DOC's under our?
He had some conversations with folks under the Justice Reinvestment too.
Yeah.
And he found some money in there that some folks said, yeah, they're fine with letting it go.
So we wouldn't have had that kind of testimony to work with. He had, okay.
Are you taking a vote?
Yeah, I second the
tonight?
motion. Yeah, I want to pass that.
It's also like, so we can come up with policy, so the policy of corrections is ours, but not the money. We could make a policy, but they can go, we don't have the money for it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
I understand they don't have.
He just has that deeper dive into the money access.
Sean?
How long does this 390,
It builds the base.
1 year.
so it's just a 1-year deal?
Yes.
Well, if you codify it, then it's an ongoing expenditure in
Yeah, whatever.
DOC's budget.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
What
All
I meant
right,
was yearly.
codify.
It's yearly.
You know,
You're codifying it, so it's not just a 1 year thing.
okay.
And it would grow, Sean, obviously, the pilot, if it would expand into maybe a more program in Newport, and then you would eventually, as we talked about, into other facilities, so it's,
Depends what we do with the
Right.
H219,
right.
but right now it builds a base.
Okay, and then quick question, Troy. It just refreshed my memory on the testimony that it was a positive thing for the kids, for the parents and all that.
Yeah, I mean, that's so I don't remember.
They're all
Yeah.
coming in this week.
Yeah, Lund is coming back. I mean, so this came out of the fact that our committee last year put into our omnibus bill that wouldn't gender parity be a good thing here, that not only women are parents, but there are male parents as well that are incarcerated. Given the success that we've already seen with the Lund Family Center at the CRCF, the Kids Apart program, let's do a study on what it would take to expand that program into a men's facility. What came out of that study, so that's what they presented to us at the beginning of the session. Lund came and said, this is the results of our study, and this is what it would cost to turn this into a more codified program. Now, the bill 219 doesn't specifically name Lund Family Center as the delivery of this program, but it does state that given the success of their program, this should be a thing, that the way we run incarcerations in the state of Vermont is to acknowledge the fact that some of our incarcerated Vermonters are parents, and the impact that that has on their kids is significant. So a program such as Kids Apart is a great way at managing that.
Yeah, no, I just wanted you, I kind of remembered that. Thank you for that update. That's all. I'm for it. I just wanted to hear that.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into more detail as we talk about 219. I think that's tomorrow, isn't it?
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
let's do the sheriffs.
Yes,
Six deputy sheriffs, we were recommending. And this would be specifically for prison transports. That's our focus.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be others. Troy's been working on this. You've been working with Martin Lalonde.
I met with Annie Noonan this
Okay.
weekend here just to try to get a grasp of the numbers and see what we were talking about, and really emphasizing it would be the transport deputies for the sheriffs. Not ones that would have more general duties here. She wrote me up a memo, just going over the cost of it, and we all sat in on that 3-hour hearing there, so I don't think I need to refresh you too much, but we're in sort of a sad state of affairs here with, leaning heavily on DOC staff who are already stretched pretty thin. And if you look at that, like $6 million overtime number in the corrections budget, much of this is just a cost shift anyways, right? So it'd be nice, I think, if we could get into a better rhythm. It's not going to solve everything, but I'm told 6 additional state transport deputies would put a big dent in this. You'd have less friction between the courts and DOC, hopefully, and we'd have better results there. Maybe a little less dependency on the virtual hearings too. So the problem is we'd be authorizing these 6 positions, but there's a vacancy savings requirement in the sheriff's department too, that requires you to, make up savings by holding positions vacant, right? So unless you mention that too, they're going to have to continue keeping these vacant. So it would be a 2-pronged approach with $800,000 for the 6 deputy positions, and then $673,000 to eliminate the vacancy savings requirement for the sheriffs.
So
Is that something we can do? I'm not being facetious.
we can make a
We can't put ropes down.
recommendation. We can make a recommendation. Yeah.
But by we, I mean just the house.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So we can tell the administration.
The executive branch proposes, the legislative branch makes those decisions on the executive branch's proposals.
But is it not the administration's discretion on whether or not they keep positions open?
It's
Not-
legislative,
It's
you need
okay.
legislative authority for that.
Because it's all budgetary, and with the budget instructions that get sent out to each department, they would specify the vacancy saving requirements.
Right.
But,
Yeah, that would be a particularly troublesome area to have intentional vacancies.
Many of them are. Yeah.
So by doing that 2-prong approach, recommending 6 deputy sheriffs for transport sheriffs, that would cost $800,000.
Yep.
And then at the same time, you need to eliminate the vacancy savings.
And that'll get you where you need to be there to
And
keep
that's
them on,
6
because otherwise they're still gonna have to hold open 5 or 6, she said, of the deputy transport sheriffs.
Right now they have what, 4?
So to eliminate the vacancy savings, right now they're saving about $673,000 in their budget.
That's right.
So if they freed up there's 6 of them, right? Vacancy savings, would those positions then be filled by those deputies sheriffs? Or is it different positions?
Yeah, the vacancy savings requirement is general, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's appropriate, but I don't understand the vacancy savings program. So sometime I'd like to understand what's that.
So if you look now, Kevin, just quick, we have 1,000 vacant positions in state government right now there.
Yep.
Were all those to be filled, this would be a much different budget being proposed by the governor than it is now.
Right.
So you look at those thousands there, and they sort of allocate it by department there and say, where are we, we're not gonna fill those positions. Vacancy savings, you gotta eat that this year.
This is my need on
You
paper,
save on payroll because those positions are held vacant.
but it's fake.
You save on the
It
budget.
is kind of fake.
Honestly, it's fake. If you filled 100 slots,
Yep.
you're allocated 100 slots. You only filled 80. You're saving on the 20. But it's not. It's not real. But it's
They had no intention of having 100 at
paper accounting.
On the bottom line.
I understand it's paper accounting. Where does, you gave 2 numbers, 840,000 for the salaries and then another 600 or whatever for the vacancies. Where does this 600,000 get transferred? I mean,
Just disappears. Disagrees.
Yeah, okay, it's ledger, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's getting more an accounting thing really than a transfer,
is.
yeah, it's.
It's just saying that you don't, I mean, it is, it's just paper, it's shifting stuff.
And then if positions are vacant long enough, they can release them into the vacancy pool and it could get scooped up by another department. It's getting kind of technical HR
Yeah.
stuff, but.
So that's some finite number of state employee positions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess I'm almost not being facetious, but like, could we just add 12 positions and fill 6 of them and not have to pay the 673? That's not how it works.
I don't think that's how it works.
It's all funny math. I
I
mean,
do like that thinking though.
In fact, I think the sheriffs have asked for 34.
they're down a ton. That was the next part of the question. Yeah.
They've asked for 34
Well,
positions.
And the good news, I mean, so we don't have
And
to
they
get,
ain't getting it.
Right.
so that we don't have to get that far down into it because we're not going to be the ones making the decision anyway. We're just suggesting this, and appropriations, who has much more authority in this area, is going to do their stuff. Not that we're not curious. We,
I just only want to pay half of it. That's all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know. But we need the sheriff, so.
Yeah. No doubt.
So I haven't heard back from the chair of judiciary. I did send him some of this language here, but the idea is we both have skin in the game on this, us mostly with the DOC staff and
Right.
then more with the efficiency in the courts there. It's
So for the 6th deputy sheriff was 800 or 840?
800,
800,000. And then
673, 170.
to eliminate the vacancy
Yeah.
savings. Sean?
So I don't want to get way off track, but I need to say this out of my own conscience from sitting there listening to that whole thing. And Judge Zone, you know, I asked that question. We've got these people driving the people all over the state, and they're getting all this overtime. And one of the biggest problems is they're getting to these courthouses and they're not getting pushed to the front of the line.
Mhm.
And it was like there was like a software issue, or there's like something that talking about efficiency, so we get them there and they don't see them at before lunch, and then they push them off and then they have to go back, and
Yep.
then they have to come back.
Yep.
So I'm just,
Been going on for years.
is there
not
any
new.
way to fix
It's
it?
not new.
Well, the other thing
We
the
tried
judge showed,
that 20 years ago to fix it, 15 years ago.
But then
The
that's
thing-
a separate issue from this.
Okay, and I know it is, but to me, it's
No, it's
not.
frustrating. And- and
It's part of the whole inefficiency.
The brick in the wall.
Yeah.
Joe?
but Judge Zone also testified that each one of those judges in the bench are basically running their own fiefdoms in that regard. That he has no control over them,
and we
That's
can't- and
true.
We can't make them do that.
Yeah,
But we
got
can-
it.
But we
which
can,
I hear you.
but we can provide transport.
I just wanted to say it. I'm not gonna, you know.
Oh, I hear you.
Oh, we're with
The
you.
Civil proceeding, and instead of saying, you know, Mr. Lynn, I'll be here 10:30 to 11, they'll put everybody out at 10. Which means I might be on at 10, I might be on at 1. Like there's just no regard for people's time.
I'm on judicial retention, and this is a lot of what we're talking about. Some judges are much more efficient than others, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and that's where our control comes in, but,
Yeah.
in my opinion, they get.
I just had to say it.
And I'm all.
But yes, that was
I'm all
definitely
for
part of it.
Wanting or recommending we add 6. Do they always have to be 2 sheriffs transporting 1 person as opposed to 1 sheriff
Yeah.
and a driver?
Security.
There's,
I think it's security.
yeah,
Yeah.
I understand
I
security,
think
but
it's security.
they're not gonna put some,
2 sheriffs for every person?
there's a lot of times, my understanding, there are just one, but it's supposed to be 2, and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be sheriffs.
It's
Although
security.
I know where you're going, but yeah.
They could take
Just trying to
over,
be practical.
they could take over the driver.
Well, I'm on the vehicle. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could avoid that. but-
Well, yeah, I mean, there are other questions. I'm like, is there any way to bunch these guys up or folks up so you can,
It just depends who's arrested.
I get it.
Who comes in,
I get it.
you know, I mean, we, honestly, this committee, probably 15, 18 years ago, we spent a lot of time trying to figure this out with the sheriffs because they were going up and down, up and down,
Yeah.
up and down.
Yep.
And we tried to put something in place. I don't think it really worked.
Yeah.
You see, the sheriffs are the ones who transport because most states, and we did this until the late 60s, early 70s, the counties took care of people who were detainees.
Mhm.
So it's your sheriffs that drove them to the local courthouse. Because the detainees were held in county jails.
Mhm.
that were overseen by the county sheriff.
Mhm.
So the sheriffs transported those detainees and those folks going in for an arraignment on Monday morning or Tuesday morning, whenever they were arrested, to the local court in that particular county.
So it was close,
Yeah,
When we had the county system
right?
for corrections,
Gotcha.
then we started doing a unified system back in the late sixties, early seventies. Up to that point, we had one state prison. It was in Windsor, and it was for folks who were sentenced.
Mhm.
All other counties, all the counties had a county jail and a county sheriff.
Yep.
When we started to unify the system, St. Albans was built. It started out being built just for juveniles, but it never opened up as juveniles,
Mhm.
ended up opening up as a regular incarcerated. And Chittenden opened up shortly after that, and we closed the state prison as a state prison, though we still kept Windsor open.
Mhm.
So we had 3 central facilities. And then your St. Johnsbury facility, your Rutland facility, and at the time there was a facility in Woodstock, which was the old county jail. Those were our regional facilities. So the thinking was they replaced your county
Mhm.
jail.
Yeah.
Were the regional facilities that would hold detainees and those folks that were arrested overnight and then go into court the next day. And then if they were sentenced from those facilities, they would go to St. Albans or Windsor, because Chittenden was a regional facility.
Yeah. So just a quick question, just for my edification. I think every one of us in this room, if we had the power to run the policy different would, right? But setting that aside, because we don't, is there anybody that opposes adding the 6 sheriffs?
No, I think it's a great idea.
To the chair's point, I heard sheriffs used to be the best campaigners in the state because many of them lived in those jailhouses and they were homeless if they lost the election. So Tom Moore always told me that, son of a sheriff.
Yeah, so.
Do we have the exact dollar figure for those 6?
It would be 800,000 for the 6 deputy sheriffs, and it would be 673,000 to eliminate the vacancy. So 6 positions.
So
Is that
total, that would be 1.5, about 1.5.
Yeah,
Okay.
roughly.
Okay.
And I think
So,
it's fair to say it's going to take some overtime off the corrections budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so Brian and Joe, you're okay?
absolutely.
6 deputies?
Yeah, more than okay.
Fine.
Okay.
The caveat that I noted earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, we all
Oh,
have.
yeah,
I'm going to call you out on the floor, Joe.
we just don't know what the budget is gonna look like. So Wi-Fi, 3 million Wi-Fi. You guys have been doing a lot of work.
Well, trying to, chasing our tails a little bit. I guess.
Yeah,
What did you guys find out? It sounded like it got shot down.
well, what did you two find out?
What we found out, and then Kevin, please fill in or stop me or whatever, was that the information was a little bit out of date, and so the 3 million isn't actually enough anymore. There is an interim figure of approximately 4 million, and even that is 2 years out of date. And regardless of the fact that DOC indicated on Friday that the RFP, maybe, probably, regardless of the fact that they think the RFP provides enough of guidelines, it doesn't. There's a scope of work, and that's very particular. But there's not a timeline set out, which facility is first, approximately how long is it going to take, how soon could you start? There's none of that was in there. And I don't know if that's what ultimately changed minds in the other committee room, but Kevin, and then there was Chris Morrow from next door. We 3 looked at it. We all saw the same shortcomings, but thought it was worthwhile to support given guardrails and oversight. And I guess they want oversight before anything moves, maybe, is my interpretation.
Yesterday, it looked like, we would recommend finding some money, but it's not freed up until the whole proposal has been vetted with Agency of Digital Services and approved by Digital Services. And then the money would be freed up, knowing that 3 million is really not enough money.
That's my understanding.
That's where we were, it seemed like.
And I don't know if this is
Yes,
the difficulty, but each time I spoke with Chris Morrow, he indicated, boy, we really got to get that bill passed. And so maybe there was uncertainty that there was going to be
They're
that.
working on a bill for a dashboard
Oh.
in terms of projects coming online. When
Okay.
projects are due, working with Agency of Digital Service.
Is that separate from this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's separate, but it isn't because they're finding that IT projects are not coming in on time and not coming in on budget, which has been,
Right.
that's happened for 30 years. There's nothing new there.
Other
They
places
can-
I work too.
if
Yeah.
they can get their hands around that and do it, it would be a miracle.
So
And so perhaps, you know, given that that's been a problem, there was concern about that oversight, but that's conjecture on my part from having spoken with Chris.
what do you guys recommend?
I would still like to see it go forward, but you know, if our neighbors aren't going to recommend it too, I don't know if that's a dead duck. Kevin, am I missing? What am I missing?
No, I think you're right on. I recommended the word dashboard's a good word, milestone, whatever, so you can manage it. And when Chris said they were already working on that to cover most of their projects, I said, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. We'll just go with what you've got.
Mm.
But instead of coming back, now they're saying, no, we're not interested in supporting it.
So
So,
I'm curious, so what Alice had said, and what you were just saying, Brian, makes me, so are you saying we should support it contingent upon these guardrails, or how we want to word it? Or that the release of the money, I forgot how you said it exactly, Alice. That the money doesn't get released until X, Y, and Z is done? Or is there something else? That's kind of what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
But is that what you guys are saying, or?
I think it evolved, you know, from the first draft of a letter that each of the three of us did. It was talking about check-ins, reports, guardrails.
Right.
And then it got honed down over the course of the weekend to ADS is going to sort of do that due diligence for us.
Yeah, it wouldn't go forward until ADS signed off on it.
Yeah. So the draft that Representative James sent.
From our world.
Yeah. There's a draft of a letter that they are suggesting, and by they, I mean energy and digital infrastructure, to appropriations, and the wording here is at the estimated 3 million cost is several years old and needs to be updated. We join House Corrections and Institutions in requesting that DOC engage in formal project planning with the Agency of Digital Services. That's
So nothing about 3 million, just that you need to go plan this and then come back.
like that information's dated, go figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go into stuff.
Like, could we request enough money to, I hate to like study it, but to get that number, you know, so at least we're moving the ball forward, I'm wondering, you know?
Yeah, what?
If it's 100 or 200.
Facilities.
Hang on. I'm just reading what was sent to,
From Kathleen?
to us that they're submitting.
Yeah, this is 2:44 PM.
Yeah, so what they're proposing is the estimated 3 million project cost is several years old. It needs to be updated. We joined the House Corrections and Institutions Committee in requesting the DOC engage in informal project planning with the Agency of Digital Service. Our committee took a formal vote on these recommendations and approved this letter by unanimous 9-0 vote.
Yeah.
Well, the letter includes other items, so I
Yeah.
don't know what they're.
Right, and since it's silent on the 3 million, I'm assuming they're planning.
That's my take. So,
So, but what I find interesting is it does talk about the 3 million
Yes,
and it needs to be updated.
yes,
We agree with that.
yes.
It also talks about requesting that DOC engage in formal project planning with the Agency of Digital Service.
Yeah.
And we want that,
Yeah.
right? The question then is, do we add to our recommend that once this has been signed off by the Agency of Digital Services, we would support releasing money, general fund money, or releasing state dollars to implement Wi-Fi in our correctional facilities?
Sure would like to.
I'm sure they'll get there, but I'd be fine with it.
So that's a little addition to what that committee.
I don't think they're,
if we're going to require an updated proposal within that request, I think there needs to be reporting so that they can track and make sure that the project is on schedule and within cost. The proposal was fairly complete. Technically, it was an excellent proposal, but it didn't have any kind of reporting. It didn't have any training. Well, it may have had a little bit of training,
I think you're talking two separate things.
maybe.
Because there's no money that would be released until the project is approved by the Agency of Digital Services. They're the ones that are gonna get into the amount of money and the time frame. So are you saying that after it's been approved by the Agency of Digital Services, the DOC has to report back to us?
No.
Are you saying that that was in
Have you seen the actual proposal that Isaac gave us? With the bills and materials and all
the 3.1? Their old
Yes.
one? Yeah.
Right.
But that,
So they should be able to update that almost in a heartbeat.
but they also have to work with the Agency of Digital Services. That's the linkage. to
Yes.
this. They can't be independent and working in their project like they have been,
Right.
because they're not the experts that deal with Wi-Fi.
Right.
It's the Agency of Digital Services, so they have to submit their proposals to the Agency of Digital Services for them to do the project planning and to give the sign off that, yes, you can go forward with this.
Sure. Yes.
So that's what I'm thinking. After they've been given the sign off from the Agency of Digital Services, do we say then you should free up, then the money could be freed up to go to Wi-Fi? Or should there be a report back to the legislature before that money is freed up?
I didn't see a projected duration to complete the whole job. Did you see that in the proposal anywhere?
It is not there.
Okay, I don't know whether it's 1 year or 4 years, but if it's 4 years, that I think the vendor needs to be supplying a status of where they are and what progress they're making, rather than get 3/4 of the way through and say, oh, we can't do it because this and that. There needs to be reporting to keep them on track and on budget.
Well, and so does
That should be part of the updated proposal that the vendor gives to.
Well, the updated
Remember.
proposal is gonna go to the Agency of Digital Services.
Yeah.
It's not gonna go out to a vendor.
Right.
It's gonna go to the Agency of Digital Services. They're the ones that are gonna go through that with a fine tooth comb, because that's where the expertise raises. And they could go back to DOC and say, your proposal sucks. It doesn't cover the bases. You need to go back to the drawing board. Or they could say, this is right on. How many facilities are you gonna do first? Which ones are you gonna do first? And what is the projected cost of that? And once it's signed off by Agency of Digital Services, they've done those deeper dives into the numbers and the time frame. The question then is, do we recommend that the money is freed up to go ahead with the project? Or does it have to come back to the legislature for final approval?
So my opinion, since government, the way it runs, I think we'd be fine holding off on that this year, because I don't think they're gonna be ready for it anyway. And I think that just overcomplicates it if we, not that I don't want it done, but I don't foresee them even being ready before next year. Unless something happens in government speedier than I think it does, or have ever seen.
I mean, I share Kevin's concern for oversight. I do. I guess the question we're asking is, do we trust this Agency of Digital Services to have the sign off and do the oversight? And I'm inclined to. I mean, is there a reason not to that we're aware of? Because we would be ceding that. Effectively.
Do what?
We would be ceding oversight essentially to this agency,
Yeah, we looked at them first anyway to see if we release the money.
right?
So this is what this committee over here recommended. They recommend that the Department of Correction engage in project planning with the Agency of Digital Services.
Yep.
They say at this point, the estimated $3 million project cost is several years old and needs to be updated. We agree with that.
Yep.
Right? We join the House Corrections and Institutions Committee requesting that DOC engage in formal project planning with the Agency of Digital Services.
Yep.
Yes.
Period. Done. That's it.
100% fine with that.
Project planning here. Where's that language from?
That's from what
Next
Sarah
door.
sent.
You want to see it? It's
Maybe she doctored it again for
For me to
us.
change it, yeah, because the last version I have is that at this point, the estimated 3 million project cost is several years old and may be low. Join House Corrections and Institutions in strongly advocating for this funding in the FY 26 budget.
No, that came out earlier.
Provided, that DOC engages in project planning with ADS and the ADS subsequently approves.
That came out earlier this morning.
Right.
This was
It says it's
2:44
p.m.
Oh, okay.
Try to be on time.
You have that.
I can forward it to you right now, yeah.
I'd be fine with this, Alice, because I just don't think they're gonna, not because I don't want it to be done, I do. But I don't think they're gonna be ready to spend the money on actual infrastructure, or however you wanna call it, the actual Wi-Fi here anyway.
No, I gotta find this
And
again.
whenever it finds its way through the ether, you got it. Yeah.
Why is this not popping up? Oh,
Maybe it's not
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Something for budget adjustment if it comes in.
Yeah.
Over budget or slowly or something like that.
You recommended that already.
no, their recommend is they recommend Department of Corrections engage in project planning with ADS.
Mhm.
At this point, estimated $3 million project cost is several years old and needs to be updated. We join the House Corrections and Institutions Committee in requesting that DOC engage in formal project planning with ADS.
Yeah.
Period. That's it.
No, yep,
That's it.
I'm 100%.
Seems logical.
Yeah, I'm 99% okay with that.
Other folks? Sean,
I'm good with
Will?
that. Yeah, I agree.
Brian?
I like the way they,
Okay, just so that we have the same
I'll
one.
just draft language that says you endorse the Energy and
Yeah.
Infrastructure Committee's position.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
I think you're here.
So we also have,
Sorry, Sheriff.
we have the sheriff, 6 deputy sheriffs,
Yeah, I think I have all the information for that. I just have to put it on paper.
and the free up and eliminate the vacancy savings from those 6 positions.
I think so. I don't.
I don't know if you have the memo from Andy Newman. I can send that to you
Yeah,
right now.
send that to me. That would be.
Yeah, you got it,
And then the kids apart. There is,
The funding for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Trevor has found some money in
Okay.
DOC's budget. But basically, we need to reference H 219 that codifies the
Yep.
visitation program. And that we request a budget of almost 400,000.
Right, the amount that's in that bill, right?
Well, Trevor had 390.
That he discovered, but.
Troy, do you have the numbers in front of you? Is that what we put in that bill too?
We put a little buffer on there. It was about 390 something, and I think we put 400. Let me see if I can call up my.
Say up to 400,
Up to 400?
do up to.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing.
Yeah.
And then we're done with this. There is for Turning Point,
All right.
Turning Points.
Mhm.
Last year in the budget, there was 1,060,000 that was put in for Turning Points so that they could expand the recovery coaching program. This year, it looks like the 1,060,000. They're not asking for it to be in the general fund in appropriations committee because they are anticipating DOC is going to get that money through an earmark.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So my concern is with the mess that's down in Washington, how sure are we that we're gonna get 1,060,000 in an earmark?
And
In
highly
DOC's?
unlikely.
well, according to, and we talked about this, but according to Isaac, their word from Senator Welch's office, that has been sent up the chain. So it could happen. It's not,
Sent up what chain?
well, let me read what he said, because I have this, has been has been nominated for the projects, are still pending, and they are waiting for confirmation. I said, that sounds good, right? He said, I think so. But I won't hold my breath. No one should hold their breath. But it's very possible. And I don't think in Washington that they're trying to cut every single thing under the sun. I don't think they're trying to You know, so I understand if, just, it's scary.
Congress is so dysfunctional, they may
Right.
not even pass a budget.
Well, they haven't passed the budget in like 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not,
They
that's
just-
not it, so. But anyways, my question, if everybody's listening, so my question is, but I want them to hear it so that they can vote on it. So they had 1.06 million last year. That was in from the opioid settlement funds. This year, they're not asking for that, as Alice just said, because it's wrapped into a $1.88 million request that Senator Welch has in for congressionally designated spending. How do we, or how would we write a letter that is saying, I would assume, like, if this falls through, that we want state funding for this, and I'm assuming that's where you're going, or do we, like, what avenue are you asking or suggesting that we pursue?
To backfill
To-
1,060,000,
you know what I mean?
you'd either do it from the opioid settlement fund or general fund. Because if you want that program to,
0.106.
106.
yeah, because if you want that program to continue recovery coaching, you need to get some money in it.
And their request is a different number, correct?
Their request is 1.6 million for general operations. It's different.
Separate.
Yeah.
It's separate. That's what gets
That's what got
confusing.
confusing.
I was getting hung up on that.
So,
Because
so last year, that money came out of opioid settlement.
Yes.
This year, Turning Point is saying for recovery coaching, that's what the 1,060,000
Yeah.
goes to recovery coaching.
Did I make it?
Yes.
They're not requesting it from appropriations committee or the opioid settlement. They're anticipating it's coming from a federal end. And I don't want them to get cut short and not have it.
Got another bag over here, Chair. You can-
I understand.
Which is why my question was, and I think that is how we're going to word or send something to appropriations that says.
That
hey,
does this magic.
Right, but I'm saying that's what we're that's what we're advocating for.
Something to the effect that we,
In the event that there isn't federal funding, what happens? That's sort of.
Yeah.
No,
So-
I just started my,
Not the-
started running this afternoon. I was
Not,
fine.
not to be this guy, I guess, at the end of the day.
No.
So what I.
I'm sorry, I thought.
No, I'm done because I'm trying to make sure that is the position that we're going to advocate that money's found somewhere in the state budget if this money falls through.
Our concern is if the money is not coming through the earmark, we feel quite strongly that money needs to be appropriated to Turning Point to continue the recovery
Correct.
coaching program within our facilities.
Do you know how to word that, Ben?
I mean,
Yeah, I'm with Troy.
yeah, I mean, I can word it as that. The issue that I see is how to do that.
Well, that's my question.
And so, yeah, you can express that pretty easily in the letter, basically just saying, in the event that there's no federal funding available to support this program, the expectation is that the General Assembly would appropriate money to cover the cost. That's how we do it, but
We'll be out of here before that happens.
right, so do you want to go the step further and indicate how you want it to be done?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
So that could be
Could you,
so there are two ways I consider this happening constitutionally. One, the justice oversight model. Or two, budget adjustment.
Be more, yeah, but the joint justice oversight doesn't have the authority to release money.
So what you could do is that you
Joint
could,
fiscal.
in the big bill, you could put in language that gives them, delegates authority to it. The only issue in my mind that I'd have to look into is that you would be dealing with money that's not already appropriated.
Right, and I don't,
Which is what's different than what we currently do with justice oversight with out-of-state bed savings, because it's money that's just being reallocated that's already been appropriated to DOC. In this instance, if you're issuing a new appropriation, I think you need the full legislature to do that. I don't think you can delegate a whole new appropriation to just a committee.
Committee, even joint fiscal committee.
Could
Yeah, I'd
you
have to look into it.
recommend an appropriation that is somehow frozen or put into reserve in the event that the federal grant comes through?
You could do it with a waterfall.
Yeah, that's JFO stuff that I.
Yeah, you could do it in a waterfall with a surplus.
I think it's getting too cute. I think if we want it, we gotta just ask for it there, and if the federal money comes through,
Alright,
that's more money for budget.
Along those lines.
But like other-
Fairfield.
Anything that we put that limps into this budget cycle is dead downstairs or upstairs now. I
Yeah,
think we just have to be firm and say we want it, you know?
okay. I don't have a problem with that. I just want to see what
Yeah.
people want.
8:30?
Yeah.
Is it 8:30 or 9?
No, it's not.
Nine.
9?
We're at 9.
Okay.
We'll sleep in, because we're all sick.
No, no.
Yeah, I'm gonna go like jump into a vet of vitamin C before I see you people.
So I-
You better. You better.
If we were still talking turning point, the number is 1.6 million.
Different money.
It's different.
Okay,
That's what we were trying to
That's,
explain.
we've been spending 1.6 is for general operations.
This
I'm
is-
referring
Is
to
this-
Tracy's.
Right,
That's
go all the
different.
way down to the bottom.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure
Go all the way down to the bottom of her, not all the way down, but it explains it.
Yeah,
we're, okay, good, good.
yeah.
I heard
So-
the other two numbers.
In that case, I personally would support what Connor said, and that is that we say, hey, we want this money appropriated or whatever. And yeah, if the Fed comes through, then we have money to deal with it because it's gonna fall. If you were concerned about it falling through, that's the only way to do it unless BAA, but then you're still 6 months into the year where they're going, well, we can't start this unless they have money that they can backfill with it.
So Ben, why don't you draft up, because we're gonna be all looking at this as a full committee tomorrow, draft up language that just suggests what Connor said.
So that you.
We recommend,
A general fund appropriation.
however they want to do it, they could decide they do it through the opioid settlement fund. But recovery coaching is, whatever, is
Yeah.
an important program within our correctional facility to address substance use and public safety when the person reenters.
You know, we're not
And we
concerned.
support that program continues and support the 1,060,000 for it.
So it's the Turning Point program to expand recovering coaching?
Yes, within our correctional facility.
Yeah. Are we putting in any language that says in concern for the congressional earmark not coming through, or are we just leaving it blank on that?
I think that you're asking for either general fund or opioid fund appropriation.
Yeah, we are directly.
Starting there.
Just leave it be.
Oh, I know that, but I just, if we were referencing it all, why we are asking,
Right.
or are we just like,
I don't know, that's up to you guys if you want.
the reason I say that is because if they go, well, wait a minute, there's an earmark for this.
You could say,
Yeah,
given
we-
the uncertainties surrounding.
Given the
availability
uncertainties surrounding-
of federal funds.
That's the only reason I want that.
Heard every sentence.
I mean, that's the reason I asked that question, because if we get downstairs and they go, well, wait a minute, there's already an earmark, so we didn't address it. So,
And so it is not part of this exercise that we have to rate our children and say which one we want more than another. We just,
no,
great,
But you can do that tomorrow.
sure.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the chair
Well said.
asks our chair, you know, which is the most important, right? It's-
but as you know, I mean, by the time the budget process is done, it looks way different anyway, so.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So then that would go with our,
In the letter.
the one also with the St. Johnsbury facility.
Yes, so I'm incorporating
We,
that budget language that we discussed with the additions. I'm also putting that into the letter as well.
yeah, and then we have other things in the letter that's not connected to DLC.
Right. And
So I don't know how to do that. I can just fill in. I can print out the other part and just say we support.
I mean, yeah, Troy, can you send me the Word document of that letter that, because you initially drafted it, right?
It's a part,
Which
Well, just,
letter?
The initial 4-bullet letter of all the recommendations.
that is for the the treatment services. You already worked up some language on that, didn't you?
Well, not
Yeah.
the letter itself. The letter I think Troy drafted.
The one where we did 300 or 200 instead of 300?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were
You want-
here. But you were here Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I was here, but that letter was,
Well, you rewrote it
You
up.
rewrote it.
well, I hadn't rewritten it. I haven't rewritten it yet.
Oh, all right,
We
Oh, I
talked
see.
about rewriting it once I had all the additional information.
right.
Uh,
Here you
Let
go.
me- I'm just gonna
Yeah,
find
I
it
got it. I
right
just
now. I just gotta remember where I put it.
It's okay. It's not a big, I can replicate it. But the other stuff, just reworking the big bill language too, to reflect the discussions
Oh,
and.
wait, I can just resend the email. Hold on just a second.
That's what I was gonna look for it, Troy, because you sent it to me too. I can find it.
But you guys can get it to Ben.
So I'll rework that letter with everything. I'm not gonna touch the portions that we haven't discussed other
Yeah,
than.
'cause they don't deal with correction stuff. They
Right,
deal
so
with budget stuff.
You want me just to like indicate support or,
For the other stuff,
yeah, or just,
why don't I sit down with you and go through this and then you can figure out what you want to do or don't do.
I just sent it, Ben.
When we talk,
I found it.
so.
I already sent it, so.
Oh,
Okay.
aren't you just awesome?
In your face.
I have a half an hour break tomorrow morning for this committee, so that's my time to talk.
I already
Stay
sent
good.
it.
I'm in committee.
God bless you.
10:30 and then 10:30 to 11, I'm free, and then 11, I'm back here. So do you want me just to pop in after House Judiciary? And then we can talk about it.
about the letter or about also some of the other stuff.
Whatever you want.
What time?
8:30.
8:30?
No,
Oh, later.
10:30
10:30.
in the morning.
Originally you said 8:30.
Right. Long day.
10:30 hours.
If we can do it in half an hour, because we have a meeting at 11.
Or the other thing is. Well, I'm here.
I know, but I'm not. I have some place to go at 11.
Is that we could talk about it at 11, or I'm free in the afternoon, and you could schedule me for a time.
I'd rather do it in the morning.
Yeah, let's talk about it at 10:30.
There is time built into the agenda to talk about these things tomorrow afternoon, I believe.
But you and I should talk, because there's other things in here that's not connected to DOC, and I don't know if you want to include that in our letter,
It doesn't seem like it would make sense to do that if it's not connected.
it's not connected to DOC. One of it,
So we need a separate letter?
or, I mean, it's pretty simple. I can just handwrite something and hand it over to him.
I mean, Troy likes writing.
Can I just see it really?
This is transferring money, cash, to the capital bill. In this, we're saying Probst can keep it. This is unreserving some money to go to DEC. This, we're recommending 125,000 for dry hydrants rather than 55. And this is an additional pilot payment to Springfield and Newport because we.
Is
Those are
it,
the
is
other
it possible just to email me those numbers with just a little blurb about what's going on with it, or at least scan that in?
Yes.
I can do it. Well, I can do it in the morning if you want.
Why don't you do it in the morning?
Yeah.
You just take a picture of it.
You want me to, oh, you got a picture? Yeah, that's an easier way to.
I'll take a picture with my.
So we're
I'm
talking
fading
about,
fast.
is it all of it that we want? These two, okay,
You got it?
yeah,
And
both these.
Yeah, beautiful singers.
and then
Which is a good.
we
I'll
have.
make sure to include the pictures in the.
Okay.
attachment for the letter.
Look at Jen. Good thing I clipped them this morning. All right.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
It's been,
Okay, anything else,
okay, that's all good.
Ben?
Cheers, Ben, thanks.
Optical character recognition software?
What?
Optical character recognition software, do you guys?
I don't even know what that is.
It's like it'll take a picture or whatever and we'll convert it into a Word or a PDF or.
Oh, like OCR or.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I was thinking.
not really, no.
We can go off of live here, we're done.